Welcome to the Elusive Podcast.
You found us.
A podcast that is harder to find than history that was written by the side that lost. I'm your host, learned man of science and werewolf enthusiast, Levi Van Scoik.
And I'm your other host, a long-distance hiker and gatherer of copious amounts of useless information, Lyndsay Burnett.
We are a history podcast, and we like to cover true-to-life elusive stories that you won't find easily, unless you like flipping over rocks.
Or unless you're following this podcast, of course.
This is the part of the podcast where we give an existential warning. We cover stuff that isn't super good for your mental health.
So if you need to take a break and go touch grass,
listen, we get it.
The script is flipped and it's my time to cover an elusive story. The wife has the wheel. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Oh, don't sound so enthusiastic, baby. Woo! There it is.
There it is.
Okay, so since you're my husband, and you know that I'm fascinated by anything to do with the brain, that includes some of the more out there ideas of human capabilities. And since now I have the reins, tell me, what do you know about remote viewing?
So the only experience I have, I think, is like the opening scene of Ghostbusters. Where Dr. Venkman is just shocking the absolute piss out of that college student. Who's getting all of the cards right because he's doing a test for ESP, extrasensory perception. Yeah, and I don't know. Real quick, as an aside to that, though, like shock therapy, because he's wearing those things right on his temples. Like if he was concentrating on using his remote viewing ability, in effect, Dr. Venkman is shock therapying his way out of being able to do it.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
All to try and get laid by the co-ed.
All of that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's not one 80s movie that isn't problematic.
No, there's a lot of use in that. But yeah, okay. Well, okay. That's all you know on remote viewing?
And that, and also that the EPA was the bad guy in Ghostbusters. Just, this is the most 80s movie of all time. But yeah, no, I mean, I know a little bit about ESP, but remote viewing, that kind of stuff, not really. It's not really in my bag, because I only like to, stuff that's real.
Well, that is true. Now, listeners, I chose today's topic because Levi used to be, among many other things, a professional skeptic for a ghost hunting team in Texas, Oklahoma,
and Arizona.
That's right.
That's right.
The fact that you observe first and make judgments later is perfect for this topic.
Yeah, my whole job was to go in and figure out the real reason why you were hearing creaks in the middle of the night. Most of the time it was plumbing, not a ghost.
Really?
Yeah.
Just the knocks of the house.
Knocks of the house, or a dryer vent that was improperly put in, or a cooling vent in the attic that wasn't open properly, pipes expanding. The amount of things that are not ghosts that I found is devastating.
That makes me, and this is why I decided to use this topic today. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to cover, we only cover real-to-life history stories that are proven.
Oh, wait a minute. My overly cannabis brain just put this together. So you're saying that remote viewing is real?
Yeah, it's not a joke.
Okay, yeah.
Scientific proof.
Remember that existential warning we did at the beginning of the podcast? I need to go touch grass really quick because you're telling me that that's real.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
yeah.
Professor X is out there. Okay. All right.
So, I'm glad you said that. Remote viewing can be best described as the practice of seeking impressions about a distant or unseen subject. So basically, using a person's mind with their inner eye to give information on a person, object, or target that is separated from the observer's physical view and location.
So like Cerebro.
Actually, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Perfect that you use perfect that you use Professor X.
Never underestimate a man that has a cable tattoo on his leg.
It absolutely does sound something out of a Marvel comic book or sci-fi.
Yeah, that's most of the reason why I always thought it was just bunk.
Right, just somebody wrote it. Hey, that's a cool idea. Or if you grew up like I did in a religious household, it can sound like some real woo-woo tinfoil hat-wearing drivel.
As somebody that also grew up in an overly religious household, I agree.
Yeah.
Concur.
But clairvoyance, which is technically what remote viewing is, clairvoyance has long been seen as sacred and respected. Like the oracles of Delphi.
Or the articles of Delta in the Treaty of the Coil.
Exactly.
The pot smoking, not pot, I'm sorry, the seaweed smoking otters that swim through the timeline to find out the predictions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly like that.
That's available now wherever books are sold.
And you can get it just by the click of a button.
Yeah.
So the oracles of Delphi, however, was a woman whom the Greek believed her visions came from the god Apollo.
So there's been more than one.
More than, absolutely.
Okay.
But you know what? The Delphic Order's last prophecy was reported in like 391 AD. So.
Okay, so they not for a long time.
No, but we're going to jump from there to today, which is like 1600 years in the future.
Do we have to do the fast forward noise? Okay. 1600 years. And I've wasted most of my Red Bull.
Okay, so remote viewing is also known as telesthesia.
Oh.
Traveling clairvoyance or out-of-body travel.
Teletype, telephone, telesthesia.
So for most of human history, this practice was seen as sacred or, for the most part, respected.
Right.
And I couldn't really find where in human history that changed, but somewhere around the Roaring 20s, they did.
Prohibition. Right?
Well, I mean, there was a mad dash of the supernatural. Like,
well, everybody was sober. So, like, you know, you had to go talk to somebody to see something.
It might have been that. It might have been the Spanish flu epidemic or
Spanish flu.
The World War I.
Yeah, it was a great time to be alive.
Or the crashes that, there was a lot of stuff that happened. That was
time to be alive.
So now there was a lot of people who delved into what is now considered occult practices like Aleister Crowley.
Sex magic.
Mm-hmm. And L. Ron Hubbard.
Scientology.
And the Fox sisters, who were instrumental in bringing mysticism back into the mainstream.
They were also instrumental in throwing up cheesecloth and making it look like ghost ectoplasm was coming out.
Right. Weren't they also the ones that could tap with their toes?
Yeah, one of the sisters could like fold her foot into a tight fist and knock on the floor without showing any physical, like the top part of her body. So They couldn't tell that the motion was transferring. They had wires under the table. It's like fog machines, smoke that would come in from places. They even had a door that they would open that would make it colder in the room.
Right.
Yeah, and the only reason I know about all that is being a professional skeptic. This is one of the things that we were trained to look for when you're getting around a medium. First thing you do is check under the table.
The history of scams from ghosts.
Ghost scams.
But in May of 1922, a dude named Joseph Banks Rhine, or J.B. Rhine for short, he was going for his master's in botany in Chicago.
Just a little aside to everybody: never trust a botanist ever.
So wait, didn't you study botany?
Yeah, and that's why I'm giving you the warning. Just never trust a botanist. We don't make enough money, guys.
Gotcha. Okay.
We're crooked. We're always looking for a way to make that extra, green.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Nice.
Cut
that out. Okay, so good old JB was in Chicago, and he ended up attending a lecture by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Have you heard of him?
A little bit, yeah. I might have heard his name in passing here or there. Yeah. What? Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, anyways, weird little turn, but yeah, that lecture, he changed good old JB. And what was the topic of that lecture? It was a real light one. It was titled Excluding Scientific Proof of Communications with the Dead.
That is a mouthful of words that basically says we're going to take all evidence. We're going to look at all evidence. You want to talk about orbs? Yeah. You want to talk about EVPs? Yeah. We'll take it all. We'll listen to it all. We'll look at it all. We're not pushing anything outside the bounds of what we believe is real.
But all said with a very drolling,
yes,
boring voice.
As dry as possible.
You want to go to sleep. Yes. Oh my goodness. But this triggered his interest so much that he later took a job and moved to your sister's neck of the woods, Duke University in Durham, North Carolina.
That's also my neck of the woods.
Wait, okay. That's a really long neck if you're there and here.
Three horns don't play with long necks, apparently.
Apparently.
But yeah, okay. So Durham.
In Durham, yeah. So in Raleigh. So in 19
East Carolina barbecue. Sorry.
So he took a job working with Professor McDougall to form the branch of parapsychology we now know as abnormal psych.
McDougall.
I absolutely think this is wild because JB would go from a master's in botany to co-sculpting a psychology that was my all-time favorite college course.
I wonder if it paid better than being a botanist.
It probably.
It absolutely did.
Right on the coattails of the Gilded Age? Absolutely it did, yeah. Anyway, this story isn't about old JB. There were men before and after JB that studied the psychic phenomenon.
But he was like the Britney Spears of, I don't know, Britney Spearson?
Yeah.
But for parapsychology?
Yeah.
Okay.
He did it.
So he was the influencer. He was the patient zero for popularity. Got it.
At least from my research, yeah, that's what it seems.
Okay.
But his work brought a lot of criticism, and that kept paranormal studies from funding his scientific acumen.
So because of him, he was like the bad fish that ruined the whole barrel.
Pretty much, he hung with the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
And because of people like the Fox sisters who were legitimate scammers, it brought a bad light to some of the scientific stuff he was trying to do. Okay. And so because of all of that, he couldn't get funding. And a lot of the people that did study this didn't get funding, because
of the crazy stuff. It's a lot like being a paranormal researcher today, because you have a lot of people out there that will like take pictures of like an empty apartment and like the dust particles floating around. They'll be like, those are orb spirits. And you're like, no, they're not.
Right.
Like, or like just all of the things, because those people ruin it for the rest of us. The ones that are walking around with K2 meters that aren't checking to see if there's unshielded like outlets around them or whatever. And they're like, oh, it's a cold spot. There's a ghost. Without any proof, they ruin the science for the rest of us. And those that are out there trying to do the real science of paranormal investigations and research, they give us a bad name. And so I can't say this from the bottom of my heart. Fuck you, JB. Okay.
That is actually very accurate, because JB, I mean, yes, he did bring a bad light because of the people he hung out with, but he was trying to do it in a scientific manner, like not necessarily double blinds.
Yeah. But it was that whole that they were going to like accept every bit of evidence.
Exactly.
That's what fucked it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, until the 1970s, along with the New Age movement, the turn on, tune in, drop out movement brought more than free love, sex, and rock and roll.
Yeah, acid, right?
Yeah, absolutely. heavy acid use.
Yep. Anytime you hear turn on, tune in, and drop out, they're talking about copious amounts of acid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And here's where the U.S. government enters the chat.
And I'm out.
Hey, Levi, you were government at one time, right?
I can neither confirm or deny those accusations. But yeah.
Yeah. So you're aware that, the government has a way of messing horribly with situations.
Well, are you talking about psyops, or are you talking about just their normal bureaucracy?
Pretty much any 3-letter.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They're just going to make it more difficult. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're going to cover this at some point, probably, because I'm fascinated by this. But those like CIA and the three-letter governments,
FBI, NSA,
right, got involved with the acid. That's how that started.
MK Ultra,
exactly. Nice. So it does have a little bit tie into that as well, because they were trying to. Okay. I'm jumping ahead. So,
I'm excited about that. The future episodes where you talk about that.
But before we go into the science, this is a great time to take a break and give a moment for our sponsors.
Absolutely. Sponsors give us money.
We'll be back.
And we're back.
Welcome back.
Looking for the money. Yep. Checks in the mail.
Yep. It'll be here eventually. So before we left for the break, I was going to explain the science of how all this works. So let me take a moment here to say that remote viewing is not a spiritual path.
Okay.
No more than meditation is a spiritual path.
I like the way you said that.
So it can't be twisted that way. And that being said, in 1970, the United States Intelligence Agency found out that the Russians were worth 60 million rubles. And I don't know the exchange rate.
It's a lot of rubles.
It's a lot of rubles. I don't know the exchange rate, but I'm going to guess it was a lot.
It was a lot.
So they're spending all this on psychotronic research. Basically, they were trying to use the human mind to torture somebody else.
So you're telling me that the Russians spent 60 million rubles on the same thing that Sheldon Cooper was trying to do by trying to blow other people's heads up with his mind?
Actually, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. With about as much accuracy as Sheldon Cooper. Actually.
Yeah, he was never successful, as far as I know. Yeah, and it's Dr. Sheldon Cooper.
Dr.
You put that respect on there.
How dare I? But okay, so the Americans also did something like that. Did you happen to see the George Clooney movie, the 2009 Men Who Stare at Goats?
Oh yeah, I saw the thing about cloud bursting.
Yeah, cloud bursting and killing goats with their brains. Yeah. Okay, so all right, picture this. We're smack dab in the middle of the Cold War, 1947 and 1991.
Okay. I was alive during the Cold War.
We both were. Yeah. So, of course, the CIA starts Scan by coordinate. 2 years later, the Stargate program was born.
It's all about chevrons.
Locked in.
Lock in the chevrons.
In 1978, in Fort Meade, Maryland, the Stargate project was established by the Defense Intelligence Agency and the SRI, which is an international California contractor, to investigate the potential for a psychic phenomenon in military and domestic intelligent applications. Ooh. So basically, that's a lot of fancy words to say, hey, we're going to try this too.
We're going to hurt a lot of goats.
So, okay, this project and its precursors and sister projects originally went by various code names. And since it was declassified in 1995, we now know that there was Gondola Wish, the Stargate program, Grow Flame, Center Lane.
Watch out!
I don't know why that makes me think of bowling.
I thought of cars.
Okay,
that's why I said watch out.
Yeah. Project CF.
Well, that's not.
It makes no sense.
Okay.
Sunstreak and Scannet. And until 1991, when they were consolidated and rechristened as the Stargate Project.
So I actually know what happened there.
You do?
Well, government projects. So like whatever one is getting funded the most, they'll run other projects into that. They'll funnel the other projects into that. So that's why Stargate was one of the originals. And then Stargate wound up being the main.
Oh.
Because they didn't have to keep on going for Senate approval.
That makes a lot of sense because there was so much information on this. It was really kind of crazy trying to figure out.
And that's by design.
Which I'm glad you said that because I was going to say all of these 3-letter agencies, it's hard to tell whether it's truth, whether it's a psyop, whether
disinformation.
Yeah, it's really difficult because even their code names are just wild. Yeah, even if those are the real ones. I don't. Anyways. So the Stargate program, the Stargate project was overseen until 1987 by Lieutenant Frederick Skip Atwater, an aide and psychic headhunter to Major General Albert Stubblebine, and later president of the Monroe Institute.
Oh, wow. So he went a long way.
He did. The unit was small scale, comprising of about 15 to 20 individuals, and was run out of an old, leaky wooden barracks.
Just a little aside. Every military barracks is an old, leaky wooden barracks unless you're in the Air Force.
Everyone but the Air Force?
Everyone but the Air Force.
Well, they got the nice, squeaky clean
They
ones?
always get the nice, squeaky clean things.
Unfair. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyways. I don't know. I'm a civilian. I don't know any of these things. So the government wanted a minimum accuracy rate of 65%.
That's actually pretty high.
That is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I get it that they want over half, but okay. So some reports state that they often exceeded in later experiments.
Oh, wow.
But I have to warn you, even years later, the number one rule in remote viewing, it is not 100% accurate.
Wow. Well, to be, a little condescending, neither are fax machines.
Just one number off.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So machine or man, but
doesn't matter. Nothing is 100% accurate.
It is not. So one of the stories I came across was absolutely crazy to me. The CIA and the Monroe Institute have done a multitude of studies together on remote viewing. And the Monroe Institute was started, by the way, in 1971, right around the time of the Stargate project. And basically, they sent the early remote viewers information on the subject they wanted info on. But it was cryptic shit. Like, because the mind apparently has a way of making connections on its own. You know how we can see patterns in clouds, or so the information had to be devoid of leading info.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, right? For example, they would hand the viewer a piece of paper that may say something like G23.
Mm-hmm.
It's something like the number on the envelope the viewer was supposed to look into on the base they were looking for, or Latin longitude coordinates that were written on the paper and nothing else.
Okay, keep it vague on purpose.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, according to the declassified information on the subject, as long as you follow the steps that the CIA has right there on the internet that you can read, as long as you follow those steps, anybody can do it.
Wow, and I'm just looking it up now, and the entire manual is available online.
Yeah, it's a PDF.
Yeah, you can, folks at home, you guys, if you want to, I don't know, do your own Professor X Cerebro thing, there is a guide out there that you can find. It's really easy to, like, I just typed it in real quick, remote viewing, came up.
And it's kind of crazy to me because I was raised not to trust the government at all. But the fact that they declassified this saying, no, it's real. It does work.
It's a real thing. And they actually have steps for how you can do it.
And it's more than half the time. Like, that's insane to me.
That is super crazy that this is a real thing. I cannot believe, as a skeptic, I cannot believe that this is a real thing. That's
really
crazy to me. Well, I mean, no, I mean, I can understand it because whenever I'm presented with scientific evidence that says, hey, you're wrong. I mean, the scientist in me goes, okay, yeah, maybe I'm wrong. And I look at it. But now I'm looking at this manual, this PDF here, and it has steps like, you can't do this on an empty stomach. You have to eat. You can't distract yourself. This is crazy. Like, it literally is so detailed. It's 100 pages of it here.
Yeah. It's really crazy. When I looked into it, it kind of broke my brain a little bit because, yet again, don't trust the government. But here's a step-by-step on how to close your eyes.
It's like a user manual on your brain.
And jump somewhere. But there are things that you can't do. It helps if somebody else gives you the information. It's somewhere else that you've never been before. That there's substantiated information that can be proven later. And to me, I guess that's the difference between hallucinations and remote viewing.
Well, the difference between hallucinations and remote viewing is, I guess, would be confirmation.
Yeah, substantiation of the,
Yeah, so like you could be remote viewing right now. You're sitting here like, oh, with a red envelope on the table. Without confirmation, you think you're just hallucinating. But from what I'm understanding from this manual, like everybody could be doing this.
Absolutely.
And the problem is without confirmation, you don't know that you're actually remote viewing.
Right.
And that's why if you try to do this on your own, you might give yourself some sort of a mental schism.
And that's why it is kind of dangerous as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even the oracles of Delphi, like they had teachers, they had people that walked them through this.
Oh man, when I was doing research for the book, because in the book I try to my space animals, almost everything is based off of the history of Earth, and so the oracles of Delta. The reason I said that they had to smoke seaweed to swim through the timelines to see their predictions. That actually is based on the volcanic cracks that were open in Delphi that were like spewing sulfurous gases and whatever into the Delphi's, into the oracle's chambers.
Into their temple, right? Yeah.
And that actually helped them to hallucinate, which is why it was seen as like a holy place.
Oxygen deprivation does some interesting things to the brain, but...
Right. So does carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right.
So, all right. This is where the story, in my opinion, kind of gets crazy.
All right, here we go.
Proof is in the story. Okay, so...
Buckle up, everybody at home. I know that tone. I know my wife's tone. Buckle up.
Click, click, boom. Okay, so Joe McGonigal? Joe McMoneagle.
I thought it was the lady from Hogwarts.
McMoneagle. No.
McGonagall? The cat lady?
No.
Okay.
So, Joe McGonigal was a Army chief warrant officer.
Oh, wow.
Is that big?
Well, in the Navy, warrant officers are previous enlisted people that have risen through the ranks to have some sort of expertise beyond a normal enlisted person.
Oh, okay. Well, he was in service for a long time.
So yeah, he had to have known his shit. That's all I'm saying. Any warrant officer I've ever come across in my, I don't know, small time in the government, they were always like the people that knew everything.
Yeah, that makes a lot. Thank you for explaining that, because
Absolutely.
that helps add to his story. So, he was a chief warrant officer who worked along with colleague Ingo Swan.
I know that name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, you know that name, and a lot of people do. We're not really going to cover him.
Okay.
But I did want to mention it because they're considered like the stars.
I'm just going to whisper. MK Ultra.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're considered the stars of the viewing programs, basically. So
yeah.
So Joe McMonigal. I don't know why I'm having a hard time. 10 points
to Gryffindor.
Joe McMonigal.
Eagle.
He had a rough childhood surrounded by alcoholism, poverty, and abuse.
Okay.
And at night he would have visions when he was scared, and he believed they were psychic predictions, and that would keep him from harm.
Where I come from, that's called a traumatic brain injury.
Yeah, trauma. Yeah. So he joined the army at 18 to escape the family turmoil.
Which one does.
Mm-hmm. Starting to add up, huh?
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. After being severely injured in a helicopter accident in Vietnam.
Oh my God, did he get powers like Ellen White, E.G. White?
I do. Oh, Lord, we're going to have to cover her at another time. But
brain trauma can give you superpowers, apparently.
Yeah, it's interesting the connections it can add or take away.
Okay, sorry. So the helicopter crashed.
Yeah, so there wasn't really much that I could find about the helicopter crash, but because of that, it took him out of, I guess, active service.
And did that happen in Vietnam?
Yes, in Vietnam, yeah.
Okay.
And so he started working in intelligence.
Uh-huh.
And so he worked there for 15 years from 1978. And he was known as Remote Viewer Number 1.
Wow. So just a quick aside, he was in a helicopter accident in Vietnam, which makes me want to talk about the next episode that I'm doing, which is Agent Orange.
Yeah.
So just for everybody at home that wants to get excited about chromosomic damage, here it comes.
Well, it's very interesting how all of this seems to be tied in, really. There is nobody that is unaffected in all of this.
Right. It's like the spider web of causality across the universe. Shockwaves, everything is touched by it.
Exactly. So, according to Joe, remote viewing is possible and accurate outside the boundaries of time.
Okay, like anything.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to do with quantum mechanics.
Well, time and space don't actually exist.
So, he believed, or he believes, he has remote viewed into the past, present, and future. And has predicted events. Okay. By Joe's own account, providing different claims of accuracy varies from 5 to 95%.
I mean, that's a hell of a variance. 9 to 95%? Sounds like an excuse I gave my history teacher.
Sounds like how a stormtrooper shoots.
The accuracy of no, they've never reached 95%.
Never? Oh, my bad. Okay. Bad analogy then. I think this is a good time to talk about the differences between hallucinations and visions. Oh, wait. We already talked about that.
Well, we did, but the substantiation of proof is what leads to
the importance of all of this.
So it's good to cover twice.
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between hallucinations and viewing.
Here's where the substantiation comes in Joe's viewing.
Okay.
So according to Joe, to what I can find, never missed a submarine in remote viewing.
Never once.
No. Okay. According to him, submarines have a lot of energy and glow like a shining light in the consciousness.
Yeah, because everybody's terrified that their boat's going to explode or get crushed and die.
He said it has to do something with entropy.
Yeah, well, so entropy is the degradation of everything. And if we're talking about a nuclear sub, that actually makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of decay that comes with radiation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but also there's personal entropy, which is like this fear of being ripped asunder, which is, I don't want to use this term, but I will. Bubbleheads in the Navy, they are some sub people in the sub fleet. They are probably like the calmest people in the world because they have to be. You have to pass like a whole bunch of physicals to be able to go under the surface of the water.
Well, I would assume you don't want a whole bunch of panicked people when you're in a tube down God knows how deep underwater.
They found that out in World War II.
Oh,
that, okay. There's certain people that are just not, they're predisposed to not being underwater. I'm one of those people.
I was going to say, hello, your wife. I am one of those.
I don't know if everybody's listened to this, but the Mole People episode will explain to you why I don't like tight places or water at the same time.
Because trauma.
Yeah. And that's why I didn't go on the subs. But then again, aside from using the moniker Bubblehead, I respect the hell out of the sub fleet and everybody in it because I could not do it.
Oh, absolutely. It takes guts of steel.
And everything else.
Trying not to get too, but yeah.
But it makes sense why he was able to identify him because of the sheer amount of anxiety that you could pick up from a group of people. I mean, that would make a lot of sense.
So whether the entropy is nuclear based or the individuals in the, it doesn't matter. He was able to find them pretty easily.
Yeah.
You know. So there's a story that I came across where they were trying to figure out what was happening in Russia. In a period that they thought perhaps the Russians were building something in this massive building in the tundra up in Siberia. But the thing about this absolutely huge building was they weren't that concerned about it being a submarine, right? Because it was like 4 to 6 blocks away from the ocean.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a long way.
Not a good place for a subplace.
Yeah, so like, okay, well, maybe they're building, I don't know, troop carriers or something like that, right?
Okay, yeah.
So intelligence couldn't figure out for certain what was going on. They had triple death fencing.
Oh, razor wire, Constantine wire, and electric.
Yep, with sentries and dogs in between the fencing. Trains delivering raw materials 24/7. Food service coming in to feed the workers, and no one knew what was in there.
Wow, that seems like something our government would want to find out about.
Yeah, they definitely had a problem with that. So Joe did his remote viewing thing and all these national defense dudes in the room with him. The consensus was it was some type of troop carrier that, like I said, to be transferred over to the ocean. And Joe was the only one that came up with the result after viewing this building for a few days, that they were building the biggest submarine by far that had ever been built.
Are we talking about the Hunt for Red October?
Man,
it's a Caterpillar drive. What?
Your brain is so fast. Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you for ruining it. But yes.
Was I got it right? Oh,
you got it right. Absolutely.
Okay. Hell yeah, Tom Clancy. Be careful what you shoot at. Some things don't react well to bullets. Give me one ping, Vasily. One ping and one ping only. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know about that one.
Okay. So. So Joe was never able to draw them the specs. He said it was like someone split the cylinder of the submarine in half long ways, and that a flat part had been welded to the top and the bottom.
Oh my God, that is a Caterpillar drive.
So he also said that it had a special drive, a propulsion system, like you keep saying.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yep, and he also said that it had a special drive propulsion system that hadn't been seen before, like you said.
Yeah.
Right.
So the Caterpillar, what it does is it sucks in water in the front and then it squirts it out the back without any moving parts, like a squid does. Yeah.
Oh.
And you, well, I mean, Tom Clancy did a movie wrote a book about it. It's classic. I don't know if you have a chance to check it out. It's really good. But anyway, yeah, that's how it works, and it's really hard to track. And
gotcha.
So like an entire nuclear attack sub could be off of the east coast of the United States and launch a massive strike, and we'd never even know it was there.
And that's basically what I read up on. Like they on top of that, they also had these canted launch tubes that would allow them to fire the nukes without stopping the submarine. They could do it on the run.
So are they shooting them vertically or horizontally?
You know, I think it was vertically.
Yeah, because I also heard that they had been working on a way of firing them forward like a torpedo and then coming out of the water.
I to be honest, I'm gonna tell you I don't know.
Yeah.
Because that sort of information wasn't really readily available for me.
It's not really important. The Caterpillar drive is.
So after Joe gave all of this information, it was looked into by the government's engineers, and they said that it was absolutely impossible. Said that it wouldn't be able to withstand crushed depths.
Oh, like that billionaire sub with the PlayStation controller.
Yeah, kind of, but no.
But this time it was the Russians that came up with it. It's much bigger than PlayStation controller. It's knobs and bubbles. It's fine.
They've been at it for longer.
Yeah, okay.
So Joe drew this all up with details of the technical advancements that the United States didn't have on their subs. He writes this all down and sends it up the chain. So this dude, Robert Gates, was the guy in charge of disseminating all the information on this.
He was the gatekeeper.
He was the gatekeeper. Oh my God. Absolutely. So the gatekeeper was disseminating the information on Russia to the National Security Council. And when he found out the information came from a quote unquote psychic.
Call me now for your free reading.
Yeah, exactly. So Gates didn't let any of that information go any further up the chain. He killed it right there.
It makes sense. It was a skeptic that didn't know it was real. I would also say the same thing.
Well, and also he was like, the engineer said it isn't viable at crush depths and it's way too big. This guy is a psychic and they're not going to be able to roll this all the way to the water. So he wrote total fantasy on the top of the report and sent it back to Joe.
Man, I really like to see what that guy thought about the heads at Easter Island. There's no way they rolled them all the way around the islands. They don't even have trees here.
Trees.
No way. Also, I read about this a little bit in my second book, The Wrath of the Coil, where the cats actually made the pyramids. It's a long... Anyway.
Go pick up the book. You can find out about it. But we're talking about this. So,
right.
Anyway, so when Gates wrote total fantasy on the top of the report and sent it back to Joe, it pissed Joe off so bad that he went back and remote viewed again to see how far along the sub was and wrote back to Gates, your quote unquote total fantasy is going to launch in 112 days. So, I mean, the balls on this guy.
They're solid.
Well, do not forget, he was the number one viewer from 1971, and this went on. Oh, I don't even remember when this situation happened. It was closer to the 90s, I'm guessing.
Wow, yeah, right? 91.
Yeah,
at least.
So somebody in the higher up was seeing this back and forth exchange going on between Gates and decides and McGonagall and decides to get curious. And sends a satellite over at 114
That's
days.
the first smart thing I've heard yet.
They had the capabilities.
Right, like, we had satellites. I know because they launched them out of... Well, I know because we all know that they... In the 80s, all they did was launch rockets to, put up MTV satellites and everything else satellites. We had so many satellites, they were literally falling out of the sky by the early 2000s. Anyway. But yeah, so why did they just do that?
Because government?
Government.
Hey, let's just send somebody to close their eyes and yeah, anyways. This is real, but still, I'm just like, oh my God, are you serious?
Are you serious?
Because, yeah. Anyways, so, you did mention the hunt for Red October. And
one ping was Shelley.
Yeah.
One ping only. The
satellite happened to snatch pictures of that sub.
Wait, is actually the Red October?
Honest to God. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was the sub that the Red October
Wait, the Red October was real?
It was real.
Oh.
It was written... Well, it was based off of this incident.
Well, now all we need is Sean Connery to want to defect to, to have Montana. No, wait, that was the other guy that died.
That was a different one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't believe this is real.
It is. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the substantiated proof of this is just mind-boggling.
I have to go touch grass here in a minute, guys. This is what?
So when the satellite went overhead, right, 114 days afterwards, all the info that Joe had reported, along with a brand new canal, had been dug from the ocean in 4 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So they made this massive canal to fit this massive sub that they, in 4 months, just there.
You got to wonder if they built the sub factory so far away from the water because they would think that even the U.S. satellites going over, they would say, why would you build that so far from there? And then they probably always planned to have the canal put there. It actually, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We do shit like that all the time.
It's side warfare. Yeah, so, I mean, I guess truth really is stranger than fiction.
No joke. I'm over here just existentialating out of my skin.
Yeah. And like I said, it's really hard to pull apart all of the truth and the 3-letter government agencies have talked about. What is truth?
Yeah.
What is not? But needless to say, the human mind is far more complex and phenomenal than we give ourselves credit for.
Got that right. Wow. Holy wow. Wow. I still can't believe. Now, if you told me if there was a part 2 to this and you're like, yeah, the sub-captain Marco Ramius actually wanted to defect to the U.S. and that's why he mailed a letter to and sonobuoys, and then so yeah, if you told me all of that, then Alec Baldwin's got to go like do a helicopter transfer to like go and that I'm waiting for the part 2 on that.
I did say previously that there was so much information on this. It was really hard to tell which direction to go.
I just can't believe that the Red October is a real submarine. Like, okay, wow, because what? It's a real thing. I always thought it was like science fiction from a science fiction writer. I was like, yeah, okay, but no, it's a real ass boat.
Exactly, and this is why this broke my brain as well, because it's easy to pass stuff off as, oh, well, that's just a story. Oh, well, that's just, oh, well, they're wearing tinfoil hats. They're hallucinating. They're schizophrenic. They're blah, 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 blah.
Well, after you fed them a year's supply of acid, they'll do that.
That's a whole, okay, I'm going to come back for that later, because, look, that's a whole nother rabbit hole that had me going, what the actual heck? You know, but also because I spent 17 years in the medical field and I worked in psych. You know, so dealing with people who hallucinated on the daily.
Yeah, what if they were just remote viewing constantly?
That's another reason why I'm just going, what the heck, man? So the stories of people that I sat next to their bedside of them saying, oh, my mom's doing this, and oh, I see the president doing that. It could have been real.
It could have been real.
Had there been substantiation, you know?
Speaking of things that could be real, we have to pay the electric bill or the darkness will be very real.
It will consume us.
We'll be back.
And we're back.
We're back.
So, after covering that mind-boggling, crazy ride,
I'm gonna be like having a cold sweat all night. I gotta go watch The Hunt for Red October again. Even though I just watched it last week.
I mean, even though you are a night owl, you will be up all night because of this.
Probably into the next day. Holy shit. Whew.
Yeah.
Are we going to do the karmic suggestion box?
I would love to do the karmic suggestion
Y'all,
box.
It is that part of the show where we are going to entreat the karmic suggestion box to, to visit karma upon people that deserve it.
Kindly.
Well, yeah. Well,
from us.
From us. Yeah, kindly.
So, are you going to go first?
I will go first. Being a Las Vegas resident and being close to the stadium where they're going to be holding the Super Bowl this year, I am not excited about all the private jets that they're flying in. Like, if you're trying to fly into Vegas for like the next month and a half, just don't do it. There's no parking for any of the regular planes because of the private jets.
They had to open up extra land just to park.
What is
800
acres or something like that?
Something like that. They need 1,700 jets or something like that. Private jets on top of all the other airplanes coming in.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So my karmic suggestion is that karma make sky orcas a real thing. Like, we need sky orcas now more than we've ever needed anything. Well, no, not more than we needed anything, but we need them pretty bad.
Bump those guys right out of the sky.
Tear the rudder off the back of the plane. They know how to do it.
That's a good one.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
So, okay, today this one's a little bit personal, but not so much because I just found out about this and it's ticked me off. So
nasty.
Karma. To the people who ruined my husband's salad and my dinner.
I usually only order like one salad every decade, so.
Okay, because it tasted like fish.
It did. It tasted fishy as hell.
And apparently they're using new fertilizer from fish poo.
Delicious.
And if your lettuce isn't washed, it tastes like it.
It was, I cannot explain to you how fast I spit that salad out.
And we both have fish allergies.
Yeah.
So we were just a little bit horrified if we were going to go into anaphylaxis.
So we're just watching each other's throats.
Yeah. Yeah. So to the people responsible, please, Karma, may they randomly smell fish at inconvenient times.
Nice. That is perfect. That is the perfect amount of get back.
I mean, if I'm going to have to taste it in the back of my mouth for as long as I have, yeah, please. Just random times.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But now's positive karma.
Positive karma.
I'll go first.
Okay.
This week, I would love to shout out positive karma for my sister, Jessie Burnett. She is a musician, and I'm incredibly, incredibly proud of her. She dropped a collaboration, La Bruja.
It was awesome.
Awesome. Now, my sister learned Spanish to be able to do this collaboration with her fellow musicians, Antonio de la Rosa and Frida Franco, that both live in Mexico.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm super proud of her. She did this awesome collaboration where they recorded it in 2 totally different countries and put it together and put it on YouTube. And yeah, I just wanted to shout out some positive karma to my sister. May she get all the views and may her music be spread to as many people as who will listen.
Make it so. Karma.
Make it so. Now it's your turn.
So, a lot of you were probably wondering why we didn't release an episode yesterday. We normally like to leave our episodes on Saturday because, well, we don't like that there's no podcasts that come out on the weekends. Like it's dead time for podcasts.
Yeah, fill the slot.
Right. Well, the reason we didn't do it this week is because we were at a friend of ours' birthday party, his 40th birthday, Mike Jones.
Mike Jones!
Mike Jones! The man born the day after Groundhog Day. But listen, I want to not only give him a birthday shout out, but also I want to just extol his virtues to everybody out there. Mike is a networker. I mean, he's a natural networker in that if he has friends that he can connect to make them better, he does. And he does that without any sort of like want or need of anything on the back end. Like it's about making his friends have a better life.
It's kind of like watching magic, to be honest.
It really is. And so, Mike, every time you connect 2 people that leads to a fruitful relationship or a fruitful project, I want your dog Oso to randomly spawn like a magical power. So like every time you connect 2 people together and like, oh man, we should work on an art project. Like Oso can now like, he just spits money like out of his, or, maybe he learns how to fly because people, whatever.
Telepathy.
Or remote viewing. But every single time he connects something, some sort of emanating, like in Diablo, when you go next to a shield shrine or whatever, Oso is that way. The dog is named Oso, by the way. He's the best dog besides
the one snoring in the corner.
Yeah. He's an amazing dog. Anyway, point I'm trying to say is that every single time he connects 2 people, that the dog should emanate some sort of shrine aura that people get money, health, or
level up.
Yeah, level up.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean that just about does it for this week's episode.
That was a wild ride. This whole Morty punch card episode, I can't wait for more of these.
Yeah?
Oh yeah, I love this.
Okay, well, I mean, heck, thank you.
Especially since the episode 1 where we said the whole point is to break the other's brain. Yeah. You have broken my shit, lady. My stained glass window of a mind is now all over the floor with a whole bunch of like Sean Connery stuff. Just, my father was a fisherman. Like, I can't. October's a real boat. Are you serious?
Air check. I win.
She won. Wow.
This time.
If this was a single elimination tourney, I would have got knocked out. Wow. 1 punch.
Well, hopefully I can live up to this one. But until then, you're on the hook next week.
Yeah, next week we're going to do Agent Orange. A story that I have a personal investment in. As
not to be confused with 007, a different agent. Agent Orange.
Well, this one will kill you too. He has a license to kill as well.
Also silent.
Well, it's a secret license that the the chemical companies and the government got together to make. But yeah, he's like a 00. But but until then, I mean, we just want to leave you guys, like always, with positive vibes, good vibes.
And until then, stay
elusive.